You've probably heard this story a million times, right? The parable of the talents. A master gives some cash to three servants. Two of them double their money, one just buries it. The first two get rewarded, and the third guy gets thrown out. And on the surface, it seems pretty simple. Use your gifts, don't be lazy. But what if the way we've always understood this story is completely backwards?
I mean, really think about that for a second. What if the guy we've always called wicked and lazy was actually the brave one? Maybe even the hero of the story who was standing up to a corrupt system? That's the question we're going to dig into today, because hiding inside this seemingly simple tale is this incredible drama about risk, about what faithfulness really means, and about the nature of true obedience. And here's the thing that's always bothered people about the story. The punishment is, well, it's intense. Outer darkness, weeping and gnashing of teeth. It seems so wildly out of proportion for the crime. I mean, what did he really do? Play it a little too safe? Make a bad financial decision? This incredibly harsh judgment is the real mystery here. And to solve it, we've got to look a lot closer at the evidence. So let's put on our detective hats and start our investigation. What exactly was the third servant given? And what was his real relationship with this super powerful master? Because believe me, the details here, they change absolutely everything. First off, let's talk about the money itself. The word is talent. And a talent wasn't just a coin. We're talking about a massive unit of weight, usually silver. According to most scholars, a single talent was worth about 6,000 denarii. Now, a denarius was what a common laborer earned for a full day's work. So do the math. One talent was equal to about 20 years of wages for an ordinary person. The third servant wasn't burying some spare change. He was hiding a fortune. Now, this next part is absolutely crucial. Most of our English Bibles use the word servant, but the original Greek text uses the word doulos. And doulos does not mean servant, it means slave. Think about the difference. A servant gets paid. They can quit if they want to. A doulos was property. They had no rights, no freedom. Their entire life was subject to the master's every whim. This isn't a boss-employee dynamic. This is a relationship of total ownership and absolute dependence. And given how much money we're talking about here, these weren't just any slaves doing manual labor. They were likely a special kind of slave called an oikonomos, basically a highly trusted estate manager. The master was entrusting them with enormous responsibility, basically the keys to his entire financial kingdom. And this incredible level of trust just makes the third slave's actions even more baffling, doesn't it? Okay, so with all that in mind, a completely different theory starts to take shape. Some scholars, especially those coming from what's called liberation theology, have an argument that the third slave isn't the villain at all. He's a whistleblower. So let's hear the case for the defense. The biggest piece of evidence for this theory? It comes directly from the slave's own mouth. He stands right in front of this master, the man who literally owns him, and he accuses him to his face. He says, "I knew you were a harsh man, that you profit from the work of others." He's basically calling him an exploiter. I mean, can you imagine the courage that would take? In that world, that's not just brave, it's incredibly dangerous. So the whistleblower theory goes something like this. The master isn't God. He's a symbol for a greedy, unjust economic system. The first two slaves, well, they just play the game. They become complicit, doubling the master's ill-gotten gains. But the third slave, he honorably refuses to participate. He won't make a profit for the master because that would mean taking part in an evil system. So in this view, he gets punished not for being lazy, but for his incredible defiance, for speaking truth to power. Now that's a really compelling case for sure, but it's not the only way to read the evidence. The more traditional interpretation also has a powerful argument. And this one really hinges on the true character of the master and the real nature of the slave's so-called crime. Let's just pause and challenge the third slave's accusation for a second. Is the master really harsh? You know, the only person in the entire story who says so is the guy trying to make an excuse for doing nothing. The master's actions, on the other hand, look anything but harsh. They look extravagantly generous. He hands over a total of 8 talents. That's 160 years' worth of wages to his slaves. That's an act of unbelievable trust and empowerment, not oppression. So when the master calls him poneros or wicked, it's more than just calling him a mean person. In this context, it carries the idea of an active opposition, a kind of rebellion against the master's character and his known will. It's like the slave has fundamentally set himself against his master, rejecting the whole relationship.
And that second charge, okneros, or lazy, is just as deep. This isn't about him taking too many naps. It's about a deep-seated refusal to act, a kind of paralysis that was driven by his fear and his completely distorted view of the master. You see, his sin wasn't that he failed to make a profit. His sin was that he was too scared to even try.
So this all leads us to the real central question. What did the master actually expect from them? Was it all about the final number on a balance sheet? Well, there's a brilliant little thought experiment that some theologians use, and I think it helps unlock the whole story. Let's just imagine for a minute that there was a fourth slave. He gets 1 talent, just like the third guy, but he doesn't vary it. He goes out, he invests it, he takes a risk for the master, and, the market crashes. He loses it all, every last bit. He comes back to the master with absolutely nothing. How does the master judge him? And when you put these two side by side, suddenly everything clicks into place. The third slave's action was fearful preservation. His motive was fear, his result was doing nothing. Our hypothetical fourth slave? His action was faithful effort. His motive was trust in the master, and his result was a total financial loss. The third guy was punished, but the fourth? The whole logic of the story suggests he would have been praised, maybe even rewarded for his faithful attempt. And that's because this whole story, it turns out, isn't really a business lesson about productivity. It's about faithfulness. Remember, the first 2 slaves weren't praised for being good and profitable. They were praised for being good and faithful. They trusted the master, they understood what he was about, and they acted on that trust. The third slave's real failure was a failure of faith. He failed to trust the goodness and generosity of his master enough to even participate in his work. And that leaves us with the real question this parable is asking all of us. What does faithfulness actually look like in our own lives? Is it about playing it safe, just preserving what we've been given, burying it in the ground so we can't possibly lose it? Or is true faithfulness about taking what we've been given and courageously putting it to work for a purpose we believe in, even with the very real risk that we might fail?